What happens when America's most respected morning host finally calls out the royal runaway? Prince Harry thought it would be another easy interview until Robin Roberts flipped the script on live TV. What followed was 20 minutes of the most uncomfortable, jaw-dropping confrontation ever aired on Good Morning America. If you think you've seen Harry under pressure, think again. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell because this channel doesn't hold back when it comes to unpacking the truth. It was supposed to be a standard morning show segment, a bit of light conversation, a few laughs, some questions about a new book. But what unfolded live on Good Morning America was something no one expected. Not the producers, not the viewers, and certainly not Prince Harry. The tension crackled in the studio the moment he sat down, across from Robin Roberts. What began as a routine interview quickly turned into a full-blown verbal showdown. And as the cameras rolled, millions of viewers witnessed a moment that would dominate headlines for days. A moment where a seasoned journalist held her ground, and Arroyo found himself under fire. Prince Harry came on the show to promote his latest memoir, a continuation of his explosive revelations about the British monarchy. But Robin had questions. He was clearly not prepared for her tone was respectful but sharp. She smiled, but there was steel behind her eyes. And when Harry tried to steer the conversation into safer territory, Robin refused to play along. She asked about the contradictions in his book. She brought up the public's reaction. She mentioned the backlash from veterans. Harry tried to deflect, to control the narrative, but Robin pushed back, calmly, firmly, and with facts. This was not a tabloid ambush. This was not a soft press tour. This was a veteran broadcaster doing her job. And as the interview went on, it became clear Harry had walked into a storm he did not see coming. Whose side are you on? Was Robin right to press him on tough questions? Or was Harry unfairly cornered? Stick around as we break down everything that happened, what it means, and why this interview is still being talked about. Before we get into the full story, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you love real talk, celebrity showdowns, and stories that pull no punches, this is the place for you. Now, back to the clash that had everyone talking. The Good Morning America studio lights were warm, the air calm, and everything looked like another typical celebrity segment. Prince Harry had been through interviews before. He knew the drill. Smile, answer some soft questions, maybe promote a book or project, and wrap things up in under 10 minutes. This was supposed to be one of those days. He walked in with a measured smile, dressed in a sharp blazer. The crew gave him the usual polite nods. Robin Roberts was already in her seat. She stood to greet him as he approached, offering a handshake and a smile that felt slightly different. It was friendly, but something about her eyes hinted at something deeper, like she was holding back. Harry sat down across from her. The camera started rolling. The music faded. The screen cut to the two of them, side by side, with the iconic GMA banner glowing in the background. Robin leaned in slightly and said, "Good morning, Your Highness." He nodded politely. "Thank you for having me." She smiled again, this time just a little tighter. "Let us get right into it." There was no fluff, no welcome chat. No mention of weather, family, or the royal wedding nostalgia. Harry looked a bit surprised. You could see it in the way his posture shifted slightly, like he realized this was not going to be the PR-friendly talk he expected. The energy was still calm, but it had a new tension. Robin had done her homework, and she was not here to fawn over titles. She was here for truth. And Harry, he was beginning to realize that. Robin took a breath, glanced briefly at her notes, then looked straight at Harry. "Prince Harry," she began, her voice steady and polite. "You have spoken a lot about healing, about stepping away from the royal family to find peace. But I want to ask you something different today." Harry nodded, expecting a gentle follow-up. Maybe a question about his book or a reflection on family life in California. Robin continued, "At what point does healing become performing?" That stopped him. He blinked, clearly not ready for it. The question was soft in tone, but sharp in meaning. She was not asking about therapy or personal growth. She was asking if all of this, the documentaries, the interviews, the book tours, was really about healing, or if it was just another stage. Harry shifted in his seat. His usual talking points were not going to work here. Robin did not fill the silence. She let it hang. She wanted a real answer. He started slowly. I think healing and storytelling go hand in hand. Sharing my experience has helped others. That is what matters to me." Robin nodded, but her eyes did not move. "But when it turns into a Netflix series, a Spotify podcast, a memoir, and now another documentary, some people wonder, is it still about helping others, or is it about controlling the narrative?" Harry looked uncomfortable. You could see it in the way he tightened his jaw. He opened his mouth to speak, then paused. Robin kept going, gently but firmly. "Your family has stayed mostly silent. They have not responded publicly. Meanwhile, your version of events has been shared again and again. Do you worry that this starts to feel like performance instead of healing?" The tension grew. The room felt smaller, the lights a bit hotter. Harry finally answered, I speak because silence did not protect us. Silence allowed harm to continue. Speaking up is part of changing that. Robin leaned back slightly, but kept her eyes locked on his butt. Are you speaking up, or selling it? That was the first real blow. The room went quiet again, not because of a shout, but because the question hit hard. It was not loud. It was not rude, but it went straight to the heart of the controversy, and Harry knew it. Robin let Harry's last words settle. Then, with a calm but clear voice, she leaned in just a bit and asked, "You have said, this is your truth, that telling your story is part of your healing. But here is the thing, Harry. You have told your truth many times now. In the Oprah interview, in the Netflix series, in your book, in your speeches, and now again, in another documentary. So my question is, if you have told the full truth, why do you need to keep updating it?" Harry blinked. It was not a loud question, but it was direct. It was the kind that takes all the air out of the room for a moment. He shifted in his chair. Again, this time, slower, more careful. He looked down for a second, then back up. Because healing is not a straight line. It is not one moment of truth, and then it ends. It changes. I grow. I learn. And when I do, the way I see things also shifts. Robin nodded, but there was a pause. Her silence was not empty. It had weight. Then she said, "But when the story keeps changing, people start to wonder. Is the truth evolving, or is the message being managed?" Harry frowned, just a little, not angry, just unsure of how to respond without making it worse. Robin stayed steady. There is a difference between someone figuring things out and someone rewriting the past. And some critics say, you have moved from one version of events to another, depending on how the public responds. Harry took a breath. That is not what I am doing. What I shared each time was true in that moment. It was what I understood then. I am not rewriting anything. I am just continuing the story as I live it. Robin did not interrupt, but when he finished, she leaned in again. Then what would you say to the people who think you are using your truth as a shield? That it lets you say anything without being challenged. Harry's jaw tightened again. His voice was calm, but you could hear the strain. My truth is not a weapon. It is not meant to silence others. It is just my experience. Robin nodded. She did not argue, but she let the silence hang there once more. And in that quiet, the real tension lived. Not in shouting, not in drama, but in the steady pressure of questions Harry could not easily deflect. Robin waited until Harry finished his thought, then leaned forward with a tone that was still gentle, but firm. Harry, you talk a lot about what has been done to you, what your family did, what the press did, what the institution did, and I hear that. But at what point do you take responsibility for your part in all this? The question did not come like a sudden blow. It came slowly, like a tide rolling in, but it landed hard. Harry looked caught off guard. His lips parted, but no words came right away. He glanced to the side, then back at Robin. You could see the shift in his posture. His shoulders tensed, his hands clasped tighter in his lap. He finally spoke. I have taken responsibility. I have owned my mistakes. I have said I was not perfect. Robin gave a slight nod, but she stayed with him. Saying, you are not perfect, is not the same as really owning your impact. In your book, in the interviews, the story often circles back to how others failed you. And again, I understand that pain. But what about the pain others say you caused? Your family, your brother, the institution. Are you willing to sit with that too? Harry's face stiffened. He looked like he was searching for the right words, or maybe just trying to stay composed. There are things I regret, things I wish I had handled differently, but it is not fair to expect me to carry the weight of the entire fallout when I was not the only one who created it. Robin nodded, but her eyes stayed fixed on his. No one is saying you caused everything, but healing is not just about telling your truth. It is also about hearing other people's truths, especially when they do not make you look good. The room got quieter, not because of silence, but because the energy had changed. You could feel it. Harry was not shouting. He was not walking off set. But the air around him felt tighter. He took a longer breath this time. I have tried to reach out. I have tried to explain. But the door has not always been open. Robin let that sit, then asked one last question. And if it never opens, what will you do with your part of the story? Will you still look inward, or will the blame always live outside of you? Harry did not answer right away. He just looked down, then up, then down again. And for a second, it felt like we were finally watching the prince stop performing. Not because he wanted to, but because he had no place left to hide. Robin leaned in a little closer now. Her voice stayed calm, but her words were getting sharper. Harry, you said you wanted to protect your family. That privacy mattered. That the chaos of the spotlight nearly destroyed you. But then, there were the interviews. The book? The documentary. It keeps coming. So I have to ask what happened to that promise. Harry blinked. For a moment, he looked like he had not expected the question to be that direct. Robin continued. You once stood before the world and said you would honor your duty. You spoke proudly about serving the crown, about standing by the queen. You even said that what mattered most was the institution, the legacy, the responsibility you were born into. And yet, you walked away. Not quietly, not privately, but loudly, publicly, on your own terms. Harry took a breath. His expression shifted into something between frustration and hurt. I never said I would stop speaking my truth. I said I wanted to protect my family from what I went through. That does not mean staying silent forever. Robin gave a small nod. I understand wanting to speak your truth. But when you released your memoir, it was not just about your truth. It was also about everyone else's. Intimate moments. Private conversations. Even stories about the Queen, who cannot defend herself now. And yet, she was someone you said you loved deeply. So help me understand, how do you square that? Harry looked down for a moment. His jaw tightened slightly. I told my story because no one else was willing to listen behind closed doors. So I spoke where I could be heard. Robin stayed quiet for a second, then gently pushed again. But, was that really about being heard, or was it about being seen? Because from the outside, it looks like you traded privacy for exposure. You stepped away from royal duty, but stepped straight into the media spotlight. A spotlight you once said you feared. That line stung. Harry's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in reflection. It was never about being famous. It was about survival, about healing. I needed to reclaim the narrative before it swallowed me whole. Robin softened slightly, but her voice stayed clear. I respect that, but there was an oath, a role you once said was sacred. And now, it feels like the trust tied to that role has been shaken, not just by the institution, but by you too. The room felt heavier. You could see it in Harry's body language. He was still, but not at peace. This was not just about press, headlines, or social media. This was about promises, about loyalty, about legacy. And for a moment, it felt like even Harry was unsure of which version of himself he had chosen to keep. Robin adjusted in her chair, eyes steady on Harry. The warmth in her tone faded just a little. Not gone, but different now. This was not casual anymore. She had reached the part of the conversation where things often crack open, where smiles get replaced by truth. Let us talk about your father, she said plainly. Harry's jaw clenched before she even finished the sentence. He looked off to the side for a moment, then back at her. Silent. King Charles, Robin continued. You have called him distant. You have questioned his parenting, but you have also called him your hero. That is a heavy contradiction. So what is it? Who is he to you now? Harry shifted in his seat, his voice lowered. It is complicated. It always has been. He was not a bad father, but he was limited. Emotionally, he did not know how to show love in the way I needed it. Robin nodded slowly. But you did not keep that private. You put it in your book. In interviews, you laid it bare for the world. I had to, Harry snapped, his voice sharper now. No one inside the family ever admits anything. I tried. Silence. I tried doing things the royal way, and it nearly broke me. Robin kept her tone even. But he is still your father. And now he is the king, leader of the Commonwealth, head of the institution you were born into. So, how do you think this plays, when you go public again and again, and he cannot respond? Harry's eyes narrowed. Why should he be shielded just because of a title? My pain is real. My story matters too. Robin leaned forward. It does matter, but so does context. You once represented the crown. You stood beside your father, waved from the balcony, wore the uniform. Millions saw you as part of something bigger than yourself. And now, when you speak, it shakes that image. You know that. Harry looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. The weight of that truth landed. I know. But I am not here to protect a brand. I am here to protect my kids. And if that means telling uncomfortable truths, so be it. Robin's tone softened slightly, but her words stayed firm. You talk about protecting your children, yet you have made choices that keep this rift wide open. Your father, your brother, your role in history, all of it now sits under a global microscope. Was that really the only way? Harry sighed deeply. No, it was not the only way, but it was the only way left. For a moment, everything paused. The cameras were still rolling, but the room felt quiet. Robin gave him that silence, letting it sit. Because in that moment, it was not a prince and a journalist. It was a son and a man wrestling with a lifetime of expectation, duty, and loss, and the scars it leaves when a family cannot or will not heal. Robin leaned in again, this time with a tone that was steady but curious. She did not look aggressive. She looked like someone connecting the dots out loud. The temperature in the room shifted slightly as she asked, and Meghan, where does she fit into all of this? Some people say she is behind the strategy. That she guides the moves, the interviews, the headlines. Is she the one calling the shots? Harry sat up straighter. The change in his posture was instant. It was not just protective, it was personal now. My wife is not behind anything, he said, his voice sharper than before. She is not manipulating me. She is not running a campaign. She is just surviving, the same way I had to. Only worse. Robin let the words hang for a moment before continuing. But from the outside, it can look very coordinated. The Netflix series, the Oprah interview, the podcast deals, the books, the public statements. They all seem planned. Harry's eyes narrowed. Of course, they are planned. You think we could just walk into the spotlight without a plan and not get destroyed? Every single move we make gets twisted. Every word gets spun. If we do not tell our side on our terms, no one else will. Robin nodded slowly, but her voice stayed firm. But do you see why some people feel it is more about media than healing? That you both want control of the narrative more than you want peace? Harry shook his head. That is not true. Meghan did not come into this looking for fame or attention. She walked into a family that saw her as a problem the moment she opened her mouth. And when she started to drown, no one threw her a rope. I watched that happen. I lived it. There was a moment of silence before Robin asked, so she is the victim here. Harry took a deep breath. She was treated like one. She was attacked, isolated, and then blamed for speaking out. If defending my wife makes me look weak, then fine. I will take that. Robin did not respond right away. She studied him. Her tone softened, just slightly. It is clear you love her. No one doubts that. But love alone does not make things true or fair. Do you think there is any part of this story where she could have handled things differently? Harry looked away for a second, then back. Maybe no one is perfect, but when you are pushed into a corner and everyone is watching, you do what you must to survive. And that is what we did. We survived. The words hung in the air. It was not polished, it was not royal, it was just raw and real. Robin leaned in again, her tone shifting to something a little more pointed but still calm. She looked Harry straight in the eyes and asked, "And your children? Archie and Lilibet, you have kept them away from the royal family, from their grandparents, from that whole part of their identity. Is that really protection, or is it control that just feels like love?" Harry blinked. The question landed hard. For a moment, he seemed to be searching for the right words. Then he replied, slowly, "It is protection. Simple as that. I will not let them grow up in the same system that hurt me." Robin raised an eyebrow. But is keeping them away from their roots really the answer? From their cousins, their uncles, their culture, even the traditions that shaped you? Harry's jaw tensed. You think I want to cut them off? I do not. I want them to be safe. I want them to grow up happy, free, and whole. Not constantly judged or compared or photographed like animals at a zoo. That is not childhood. That is trauma. Robin nodded, but did not back off. Some would argue that children should be allowed to decide for themselves, that cutting them off from their family is a decision you and Meghan made for them, not with them. Harry leaned forward slightly. What choice do they have when the media is waiting outside every door? When people send threats just because of their last name, we are not cutting them off. We are giving them space to grow before they are old enough to understand all of this. Robin's tone softened a bit, but her eyes stayed locked on his. But is there a point where protection becomes a wall? Where your fear becomes their limitation? Harry took a breath. Maybe I am still working through that. But what I know for sure is that no child deserves to be chased, judged, or dragged into headlines before they can even read. I lived it. I am not passing it on. There was a pause. Not uncomfortable, but heavy with truth. Robin did not press further. She just let the moment sit there. The question had been asked. The answer was raw, maybe incomplete, but honest. And that was more than enough. Robin looked at Harry, her voice quiet now, but direct. The studio lights were still bright, but everything else in the room felt like it faded for a second. Her next question came out slowly, but it hit hard. Harry, she said, are you healing from your trauma, or are you just creating new trauma for your family in the name of healing? Harry froze. His hands, which had been resting calmly in his lap, tightened just a little. He looked down for a second, as if collecting his thoughts, but the words did not come right away. For the first time in the entire interview, he seemed unsure. I am trying, he said finally. Everything I am doing, every choice Meghan and I have made, it is because we want peace. We want to break the cycle. Robin leaned in slightly, her tone still calm, but unrelenting. But is it breaking the cycle, or just starting a different one? A quieter one, maybe, but still full of fear, still full of silence. You walked away from one world, but you built another one that is just as tightly controlled. Harry looked at her, visibly emotional now. His voice cracked, just a little. I did not ask for this life. I did not ask to have my mother chased to death. I did not ask to be raised in a cage of rules and tabloids. So if I built walls around my family, it is because I could not bear to see them go through what I did. Robin nodded slowly. But your children will grow up and ask questions. They will wonder why they were kept away from their roots, their cousins, their family history. What will you tell them? Harry took a deep breath. I will tell them the truth. I will tell them I did everything out of love, even if it was messy, even if it was not perfect. There was a silence again. Not awkward, just real, raw. Did not say anything else right away. She just sat back, letting Harry sit in the weight of it. His eyes were wet, his voice was low. And for the first time in the whole conversation, there was no defense. Just a man, caught between pain and purpose, trying to protect his family the only way he knew how. Robin sat back, her expression calm but focused. She let the silence do some of the work. Harry looked down again. His voice had been strong earlier, but now it was softer. Tired, he shifted in his seat, and finally spoke. Maybe I made the wrong choice. The words landed with weight. Not dramatic, just real. Robin leaned in just a little, giving him space, but also showing she was listening. I thought I was protecting my family, Harry continued. I thought walking away would fix everything, but it has been harder than I imagined. His voice trembled slightly, not from fear, but from truth. I wanted freedom. I wanted peace. But sometimes I wonder, did I run too far? Did I pull away from something that could have been repaired? Robin nodded slowly. That is a hard thing to admit. Harry looked her in the eyes. I miss parts of it. Not the press, not the chaos, but the connection, the traditions, even the duty. It shaped me. There was a pause. Robin waited. She did not need to interrupt. Harry was already unraveling something deep inside. I do not regret protecting my wife and my kids, but I regret how I handled it. The way I cut people out, the silence. Maybe that was not strength. Maybe that was fear. Robin's tone softened. And now, Harry sighed. Now I just want to find balance. I want to raise my kids with honesty. I want to rebuild bridges if I still can. It was the most human he had been all interview. Not Prince Harry, just Harry, a man trying to carry the weight of choices, love, and a past that would never stop following him. Robin sat still for a moment. The room had grown quiet. No cameras moved. No producers spoke. Just stillness. She looked at Harry with a calm, firm gaze. Not angry, not cold, just clear. It is not too late, she said gently, but only if you own it. Harry did not respond. Right away, his face froze for a second, like the words had cut through something he had built up over years. He blinked, then looked down, then back up again. His lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Robin leaned back, giving him space. You have told the world your story, she continued, but sometimes the hardest part is facing your part in it. Not just the pain others caused, but the pain you may have left behind too. Harry's fingers pressed together in his lap. He nodded barely. Just once. Then his eyes dropped again. The weight in the studio was heavy. Not with anger, but with truth. A mirror had been held up, and for the first time, maybe Harry saw more than just a victim in the reflection. Maybe he saw a man who had choices. Some right, some wrong. Robin did not smile. She just sat there with him, letting him sit in it. The cameras kept rolling, but no one said a word. And as the seconds ticked by, you could feel it. Something had shifted, not in the world, but inside him. Robin finally turned to the camera, her voice steady but warm. That is all for now, she said. Thank you for watching. The screen lingered on Harry's face for a second longer. He was quiet, still, thinking, maybe for the first time in a long while. So now it is your turn. Was Robin too harsh, or was she just being honest? Let us know what you think in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you found this conversation powerful, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more. We'll have more stories coming your way, real, raw, and unfiltered. Stay tuned.